my philosophical point. It's exactly the problem. Later we'll understand what happened yesterday. Well, the problem is we have to figure out what's going to happen tomorrow yesterday.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But this is, I sincerely appreciated this last sentence of you. But there is also a clash, a cultural clash here. You're an American, so you are proactive. You are a conqueror. We are from the old continent. We are more in retrospective. We watch retrospective. We do have a different timing here. Things go a bit slower, to say the least, if you compare to New York. So it is a very old population. So, we do have many elderly. We know that the virus has affected elderly people with a complication more than any others. Now there is a second wave coming over. We know that in America is dramatic, the situation as it unfolds day after day. Then there is India, Brazil coming over. So we will see what happens. We are now dealing with the rising of the new cases again in Europe as a second wave.
Oh,
So
geez.
we will see. There are so many opinions, so many different people, so many different reactions. It's very complicated. I believe that as a mankind, we never face something like this simultaneously, 360 degrees around the globe. So it is already miraculous that
Well,
we don't have, we do have the tools to
it's
communicate each other.
interesting. Oh, and that's a very interesting point on that. I love talking about history. In fact, as you know, this happened about 100 years ago with the Spanish flu, and then about several hundred years ago in the 1400s, of course, we had the bubonic plague all over the world. So actually, society has gone through this, but it's still, nevertheless. Anyway, um, so yeah,
But
it's
we are
all
doing great. I would like to remind everyone
well,
listening that
good.
we're doing
Well,
great. We're doing great. I mean, we reacted in 3 months globally. I mean, it never happened. It never happened.
that's true. That's
Mm.
sure, sure. Well, good. Well. It's all a very interesting time. My point is that if you're home listening to Aaron's opinion, or if you're
Yes,
listening to, to Matthias in English or Italian, you should be using that time not only to listen to what we have to say, but to be thinking about what you want to do once things get a little bit more back to normal. When you're able to get on an airplane. I
yes.
mean, I'm not even as far as I'm concerned, I could be wrong, but I do not think I'm able to get into Europe right now. So I'm kind of stuck here in the States for a while until
Yes.
this starts to get. But I agree with that. I understand. Why should people be, you know, constantly traveling if we don't really know what's going on, globally? It makes perfect sense to
But
not be. Yeah,
look,
sure.
to all listeners, to really, I mean, it is a great time to slow down, to think it over again, and to make little changes that might positively affect your life from now on. So do it with intention, do it with open heart. Is the best thing you can do. Um, things might change anyway, but if you do have the slighted possibility to do the little change that you always wanted to do, and you start moving towards this better position, this better perception of yourself, try to do it. Um, there are methods to all of us. As Aaron is reminding us, I mean, uh, grab a phone and listen to a podcast, read a book, ask to a friend for the right book to read in order to sort out the question that you have. You start from there, one piece at a time, one day at a time. It's the best thing we can do. This is my little opinion about this period, which is indeed very complicated.
True. True. When you were serving in the Italian Navy, what was the longest distance you traveled on a ship, or
Um,
the furthest
yeah, yeah,
distance,
yeah.
the most kilometers?
Well, Italy, I did have several times I encountered the Fifth Fleet of United States of America, um, which is the one cruising in the Mediterranean. So we worked together several times in drills. Um, so I was sailing all across Mediterranean and the northern coast of Africa and the Northern Sea. So these are the things that I have done. So I've seen many places in Europe and over Europe, because Africa is not belonging, let's say, politically to Europe, but geographically, yes, indeed. So those has been my 3 years in the Navy. Have been fascinating. Yeah, the longest distance is not really a distance, is the time on water, let's say, sailing without touching land, without landing, harboring, which was roughly a month. And I can promise that if you're not used to it, after a couple of weeks, you start to to say, well, there's something odd. I want to go for a coffee somewhere, and you cannot because you are just to keep on sailing. So my respect, my profound respect to whole merchant sailors. No, the one of the ferries, the one of the cargo
Oh
sailors.
yeah, they
Yeah,
spend.
those guys,
I've
they spend.
spoken. I've spoken to many of them actually.
Uh,
There's some of those people have stayed on the water for over a year. I mean, it's
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah,
It
yeah, yeah,
sounds
yeah.
fun. Actually, the funny thing is, if I was sighted, that would be the job I would want. That sounds like the funnest job. You get to just
Mm.
stay on ships and travel the whole world. Like that sounds awesome. Gotta tell you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some of it is fun. Some of it is fun.
Right,
Um,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
some of it is probably not fun. Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, it is true for everyone. I mean, even if you have the most wonderful job, I don't know, if you like to be a broker, I guess it's wonderful, but the commute to to Manhattan, it might be horrible.
So then I guess it's better to stay on a ship for a couple years than
Yes.
it would be to be a broker in Manhattan,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah,
guess.
maybe, it depends, who knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
I see. I see. Well, that and now, how did you? I mean, apart from you met a lot of blind people, but what really propelled you into podcasting? What really got you into
Well,
it?
honestly, well, there are two answers. The funniest one,
I want the tr- I want the
the fast
truthful
one.
one. I want the
Yeah,
truthful
the truthful one
one.
is, well, it was an idea that it was hanging around for a long time, but it never been done. And then the COVID happened. Guys, this changed everything because I was at home, unable to work, distant from everyone, in self-isolation before, and then in isolation later. Um, so I couldn't go to train. I couldn't train with Peter and with no other. I couldn't massage anyone. I couldn't help anyone with their posture or with whatever I could help them with. And I said, well, I have to do something to keep this ball rolling. So I always wanted to do the podcast. Let's roll it. The idea was there to create the interviews with blind people, but I couldn't reach out for them because of the social distancing. And therefore, I started the podcast in Italian instead. So that's the variation that happened because of the COVID. So I started the podcast, which is about discipline, how different disciplines can help in your daily life. So I contacted the people that I directly knew and that I didn't know directly, but we, let's say, met on the web, on Instagram and other social medias. And we started to have this kind of conversation where let's say, I introduce a theme, a suggestion, a theme for the day. Let's say, I don't know, sleeping patterns, or trust, or discomfort, pain, whatever. And my guests are replying me from their own quarantine, because everyone was in quarantine, self-isolating in the same time in different places. So I thought it was kind of funny to communicate all of us in different places over the same kind of topic. So I did have a Kung Fu master, I did have a Tai Chi master, I did have a physiotherapist, a hypnotherapist, a dancer, a philosopher, and a public servant, and a Krav Maga instructor. So these have been my pals for all the quarantine. And then we went online every day for 2 months. And then we reduced to 3 times per week, and then twice a week. And now I run the podcast once a week, with the 3 of them 1 week and the other 3 of them another week. It's been fantastic. Yes, we did it for the people, for us, and for the people in quarantine. So that's why I started podcasting, because the quarantine compelled me to, kind of.
I think it's interesting that you say all of that today. I certainly, yeah, I agree. I think that the situation has motivated us maybe a little bit to become the best podcasters we can possibly be. I certainly hope, and I certainly know that maybe Aaron's Opinion will be a guest on your podcast. I love doing
love
that.
to. I absolutely love that.
I would be honored. You have
are.
no idea. It is so
Man.
much more exciting to guest on someone else's podcast than it is for me to have a wonderful guest like Mathias. We are starting.
I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very kind, Mathias. Very, very kind, and a very definitely a really fascinating person to talk to. By the way, before you go,
yeah,
a lot of my guests have been from overseas lately. And every single time, every single episode, we end a podcast a very special way. Do you know how I end it?
No. Not yet.
Oh, good. You're about to find out. I asked
Yes.
the guests to sing their country's national anthem. Can you sing the national anthem in Italian for us to wrap it up? We would just love that.
I can start it. Fratelli d'Italia, l'Italia se destra. This is the beginning of it.
That is fine. Do you want to give us the whole thing?
No. I will leave it. I will leave it to better singers. I don't want to break the ears of no one.
I think so. That is totally fine. I think someone who did a great job in the Italian Navy for 3 years should be more than allowed to sing it for the world, and the world should listen. But that was a great episode, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions for Aaron's Opinion, if you want to compliment me and say I did a great job, or if you want to tell me what a horrible person I am and that I'm deemed to hell, you are more than welcome to reach out via email. I'd really be inspired to see an email from anyone. Aaron's Opinion 6 at gmail.com. AARONSOPINION 6 at gmail.com. As I like to say, it was a wonderful evening. Mathias, you have a very good evening, and from wherever in the world you might be, as I like to say, stay safe, everybody, and have a good day today and a great day tomorrow.